Good evening, everyone. Happy Election Eve, and welcome to the fourth episode of Cocktails with Conductors. I'm Peter Wilson, the music director of the Richmond Philharmonic, and I'm here with my co-host, Will Patty, our assistant conductor with the Richmond Philharmonic. Hello, Will.
Hello, Peter. Good evening. It is such an honor to be here with everyone tonight. Thank you for joining us on such an exciting evening. I'm super excited to be here. I just want to take a quick moment to celebrate a few of our amazing help sponsors and donors to us over the years. A big shout out to the Virginia Museum of History and Culture for several years of support, the Virginia Department of Veterans Services for several years of support, Town Bank for 15 years of support, and Vogue Flowers for over 30 years of support. Tonight, we have a special donate button that is now working during the Facebook stream. So if you're interested in donating to the Richmond Philharmonic, one of the things we're doing with this Cocktails with Conductors is to try and help bring support to the organization as well. And tonight, if you are interested in receiving texts from the RPO for our mailing list, you can text RPO to 42828 and join the mailing list for updates from us. So again, Peter, I'm going to hand it back to you. I'm just super excited to be here.
Thank you, Will. So good to see you as well. And I'm wearing my special Election Eve attire, as you can see.
Fits you very nicely.
I pull this out on very rare occasions. And now that I'm retired as a Marine, you know, I can wear a flag and it doesn't really, I don't get in trouble. So this is good. So I am so incredibly excited tonight because we have a very special guest, a dear friend of mine that I've known for a long, long time. He used to work for this guy up at Catholic University when he was the director of orchestras there. But for many, many years, he has been the music director and the founder, in fact, of the National Philharmonic. Would you please welcome Maestro Piotr Gajewski? There he is.
Well, hello there.
Good evening, Maestro.
Here I am. You failed to mention that we play at Strathmore, so that's where I am.
Oh,
lock me in here.
You're at Strathmore Hall, which is what's located behind you. I don't think you're broadcasting actually from there, but you have been there. You have been there recently. So Peter, tell us about the projects first that you've been working on. I know there's a big Beethoven project that the National Philharmonic has been involved with.
Sure. So National Philharmonic just opened its season. We are having a season. It's a season that we're doing without an audience, but we're doing for online streaming and also on public television on WETA Channel 26 here in Washington. So there'll be 15 concerts on Sundays every 2 weeks. So we just had our first one last Sunday, and it was indeed a Beethoven concert. These are very different concerts. There are 60-minute programs where we play some music, but we also do some demonstrations. So, for example, I demonstrated stuff about the Beethoven First Symphony that we played. And we also had two soloists. We had Nurit Bar-Joseph from the National Symphony playing one of the Beethoven romances, and we had Jonathan Carney from the Baltimore Symphony playing the other Beethoven romance. Part of the idea of this series we have is to bring the community together. So we'll be utilizing lots of local composers, lots of local artists.
And didn't they play on like very special instruments?
They do. So Jonathan plays on an early Strad.
Wow.
And Nurit plays on a Guadagnini, which was, I mean, now we're getting really into the weeds. There's a Joey Silverstein Guadagnini. Joey Silverstein was a longtime concertmaster of the Baltimore Symphony. Aside, I went to middle school and high school with his daughters.
No kidding. Well, he also was concertmaster of Boston Symphony.
That's what I just said, Boston.
Oh, you said Baltimore. Sorry. Yeah.
See, I get my BSOs mixed up. You know, for
me,
BSO was always Boston Symphony until I moved to this area, and now I get confused.
Got it. No worries. And then isn't there something special tonight on the radio that is being
so literally in less than 2 hours at 9 p.m. here in Washington on WETA, National Philharmonic is being featured on Front Row Washington. I'm I'm conducting Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony
Awesome.
at 9 p.m. Obviously, that's taped from several seasons ago. But yes,
outstanding. Well, thank you so much for joining us. As we always do, we're going to start things off with a cocktail, and we asked you to bring a cocktail. I think you have something very special, a unique cocktail that maybe was created for you in conjunction with the National Philharmonic. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's a little unusual. So at Strathmore, they decided to they decided to create some signature drinks for the National Philharmonic. And we were just ready to launch this, and we just launched it, in fact, last February. They created 3 drinks, and they only launched the first one before we had to close down completely. And the first one that they launched was the Spicy Conductor.
A Spicy Conductor.
The Spicy Conductor.
I'm ready.
I see, and I will teach you how to make this. You're already loading up with ice. You're good man.
Ice.
That's where it begins. So you do some ice.
Okay.
I'm doing here off camera.
I have my Camp David presidential glass in honor of our election tomorrow. Everyone go and vote, please. Okay, that was my voting plug. And
by the way, Mr. Wilson, are you in Virginia?
I am.
So you can encourage Virginia voters, and I will encourage Maryland voters. And now we're covering the area. How about you, Will?
I'm also in Virginia, so definitely.
Well, so there you go.
Down near Richmond. Yes. Okay.
All right. You ready?
Ready.
Vodka. Because I'm Polish. 2 ounces. This is what we grew up on. 2 ounces of vodka.
What's the spicy part?
Well, we're getting there.
Goodness me. Do you have a preferred vodka, by the way?
What?
Do I?
Yes.
Oh my God! There's the Polish vodka, Wyborowa. But at Strathmore they use Tito's. So there's that.
Can't go wrong.
Okay. To that, add 1 ounce mint and honey simple syrup and stir.
Okay.
Wow. Oh my. This is my first time making it. There's a very interesting color. Okay.
I hope so. And now a squeeze of lime.
What do you know? I have a bowl of fresh cut limes here.
What do you know? I have a fresh lime right here.
You guys came so super prepared.
Yes.
And finally,
I'm gonna just throw that in.
Wow. Living dangerous. Okay.
Pièce de résistance. Top it off with a splash of ginger beer.
Ginger beer. Yes. Beaver tree. Just happened to have it sitting here. A splash.
Now, since I didn't give you guys the recipe, now it makes me really wonder how much of different stuff you have.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, just loaded with all different types.
Just name it.
You name it.
Please don't name it.
So many things here. Okay.
That's it. We ready?
I'm going to garnish mine with a mint sprig and an extra lime wedge on the side.
Absolutely. It's the perfect garnish.
Smart. I should probably give the little
up close there of my creation.
Let's let it look pretty, right? Like that. Is that what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Cheers.
Maestro Gajewski, the Spicy Conductor.
Spicy.
Cheers.
I am told it had good reviews.
Oh,
that's lovely.
Fantastic.
I'm told it had good reviews when it debuted last February.
Oh, that is lovely. It's a little spicy. I like it.
So now when Strathmore reopens, you'll have to come to Strathmore and
absolutely
see how they make it with Tito's vodka.
So tell us a little bit more about your career. Now you and I met at Catholic University. you would come in as the new director of orchestras, because I had already been doing, I think I was in my middle of my master's or ending my master's, starting my doctorate, something like that. And I got to be your assistant conductor, and you kindly let me conduct, some overtures and concertos and things from time to time, which I loved. But I was your concert master for much of that time, I think, as well. But where else have you, actually, you know what? Let's start with, where you got your inspiration to be a conductor first. Let's go with that. And I know you worked with the legendary Leonard Bernstein, so I want to hear about that story as well.
Sure. Well, to go back to origins, I was born in Poland, hence the funny name, and started music education really, really early. I mean, I was playing piano at age 4. By the time I was like 7, 8, 9, I was really good. Then I quit piano. Long story short, family emigrated to the United States. We relocated to the Boston area, where I picked up piano again at New England Conservatory Prep. And that was a great experience, and right away became interested in conducting. I would do everything. I was arranging, I was conducting. In my 3 years of high school, we had the 3-year high schools in Newton, Massachusetts, where I lived. I conducted 4 different musicals.
Wow.
One of which I composed / arranged. So
your debut was with musicals.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, I had the same experience at Northwestern. I did a chorus line, and Chicago was how I got kind of started.
So Chicago is a musical from which I stole a piece for the one that I said I arranged / wrote. I stole from Chicago. I stole from Candide. I mean, all obviously breaking all kinds of copyright laws. I didn't order any music. I wrote it down off of records. And orchestrated myself, and anyway, long time ago. But the ones I remember conducting. Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum was one, and Little Mary Sunshine was another, and there was another. Anyway, that's where I got the start. So then I auditioned. There was there still is a very, very fine music festival in Greensboro, Summer Music Festival, Greensboro, North Carolina, Eastern Music Festival.
Sure.
And they had they were taking 3 apprentice conductors there. So I auditioned there. I was 17 years old, and lo and behold, they accepted me. So I went down there. I was one of the 3. So the first real piece that I ever conducted in my life was the second movement of Beethoven's 7th.
7th. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
wow.
And so there was a reading orchestra every Sunday, and they assigned us pieces. So that was my assignment. Then I did a movement of Mahler 1. Then it got really difficult.
Wow.
But interestingly enough, a trumpet player in the trumpet section that summer, Wynton Marsalis. Now, who knew he was Wynton back then, right? But
wow.
but he was literally, he was in the room next to mine, in the dorm room next to mine, practiced all the time. Super player.
It's so funny how our we have similarities here, because Wynton Marsalis, if you didn't know this already, his father brought him up to audition for the Marine Band when he was 17 or 18, and he didn't.
Wow. His late father, who just passed away from COVID. Yeah. Anyway, so and then next summer they narrowed it down to 1 conductor and invited me back, which was very cool.
Outstanding.
And then I decided I wasn't going to pursue music. I was discouraged from pursuing music. Let's put it this way, by my parents and the world, because word on the street was that you couldn't make a living at music. So I actually started off as a math physics double major. But then quickly, by 3rd year, I changed to music. I transferred to Cincinnati, where both of my degrees are from. And then I was lucky enough to win the fellowship at Tanglewood, where, as you already mentioned, I studied with Bernstein. And then very shortly, I relocated to this area for no other reason. So my parents did a terrible thing, which no parent should ever do, which is, after I went away to college, remember I said I was brought up in Boston. After I went away to college, they moved immediately. And they moved to this area. So I never had a home to go back to, because I had no connection to this area. I grew up in Boston, right? So, but long story short, they kind of told me that Montgomery County here didn't have Montgomery County, Maryland didn't really have an orchestra. There was a well-developed Fairfax Symphony across the river, but nothing in Montgomery County. And said, you should really check this out. There's some good resources here. So I did, and I don't want to bore you with the whole long history, but we got the orchestra going and haven't looked back, and just got lucky along the way, worked hard along the way, and now.
What year was that? How many years has the orchestra been around now? You founded it.
So our first concert was January 1985, so literally 35 years now.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is that we keep reinventing stuff. We keep doing new stuff. I mean, I mentioned the new stuff that we're doing this year, which is completely, just very different. The folks that are doing the TV shows for us are the folks who do Kennedy Center Honors, who do Jazz from Lincoln Center. So it's, the production of what we do is really spectacular. I really urge people to come and see on our website. But anyway, that's the story. I'm sticking to it.
What's the second concert you have coming up?
So we alternate orchestra concerts and chamber music concerts. We have a chamber music concert this Sunday, which is curated by our new concertmaster Laura Colgate. But the next orchestra concert is in 2 weeks or almost 3 weeks at this point, and it's all American music. It's two African American composers, William Grant Still Preludes. And Jesse Montgomery's Starburst, which is a wonderful piece. Everybody's playing Jesse Montgomery these days, and everybody's playing Starburst. It's a very, very cool piece. And then we're doing a really interesting piece. We're doing a flute concerto by Melinda Wagner. Melinda Wagner is a New Jersey, New York-based composer, and this piece actually won a Pulitzer Prize in 1999.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
And it's going to feature our principal flutist. I mentioned that we're trying to have it a community thing. Our principal flutist, David Whiteside. So that's coming up, and we will also have some conversations and demonstrate some things. We're trying, and conversations with Melinda Wagner and a word from Jesse Montgomery. So we're really kind of it's an interesting show, not just musically.
A question from our audience, Maestro: is this going to be a live in-person performance, or a streamed live, or how can people access it?
They are streamed. They're released on Sundays at 2, so that's the release. If you're asking if it's live, we fudge a little bit, because no, we do it a couple of days earlier, because not so much because we worry about our performance going wrong, but we worry about some technical difficulties.
Right.
But for all practical purposes, they're created. They're created in the present immediately before they are streamed.
Cool. And how do we see it on Sundays?
Well, you can see it in 2 ways. You can see it on nationalphilharmonic.org, or you can look for it on WETA Channel 26 TV here in Washington.
Cool.
So I just want to go back a little bit, and I think that our viewers would probably be interested in this, as I am too, which is that, someone like Leonard Bernstein, larger than life, it's very rare to have someone like yourself to actually get to have such intimate time studying with him. I just wonder what your impressions were. What did he leave with you? What was it? How did you feel like you changed, if at all? Was he inspiring? All of that stuff. He's such a multifaceted person, obviously, but in your time with him, what kind of impact did he have?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I tell you, and as I get older, this question gets more and more interesting, because as Bernstein recedes as a composer in history, there are fewer and fewer of us who are alive who interacted with him. 10 years from now there will be fewer, and 20 years from now will be still fewer, because I interacted with him when I was 24 years old, and he was already very old, and he died shortly thereafter. So he was, there's so much that's been written about him, and it's kind of all true. I mean, he was everything. He was just life. He was music. He lived completely without inhibition and completely without any kind of filters. It's impossible to imagine how today's world would be possible for him, because he would say things that I could not say on this broadcast in front of a youth orchestra, right? So, but in many ways, I mean, it was innocent in the sense that he just had no filters. He would live with everything you saw was everything you got, and of course he was brilliant, of course. And just an awe-inspiring personality. And by the time I studied with him, he had, of course, had already almost all of his lifetime's accomplishments under his belt. I mean, West Side Story and anything else you can think of was already out there. So so I mean, so it was life changing in many ways.
That's great. That's great. So do we have any other questions coming up, Will, on Facebook, or are we just?
No, mainly we were wondering about how to access the National Philharmonic material.
Right,
Sure.
right.
I think, yeah.
nationalphilharmonic.org or Facebook or our YouTube channel or television. Yeah, if you want to find it, you'll find it.
Excellent.
Talk about you've guest conducted just in a ton of places. I know you've been back to your home country. Talk about what that kind of experience has been, getting to go, to your homeland, if you will, and
Well, so that was probably the most emotional one, because I'm originally from Warsaw, and my parents and my whole family background, while no one was a professional musician, they were all huge music connoisseurs. So that my grandparents had their own box at the Warsaw Philharmonic, which they went there every week. It was it was one of those kinds of situations, and then for me to then be invited to conduct that orchestra in that concert hall in the city of my birth, and then the place where my parents actually met over music. They were, they would go out on dates to opera So for me to get invited to conduct there was, and my father got to go back and hear me, because my dad was also living in America, but he came back. So in the concert hall where he had all those memories, I was conducting. Interestingly enough, mostly an American program. A very weird caveat of that program is that I conducted there several times, but the very first time was I conducted the Polish premiere of Copland's Lincoln Portrait.
Wow.
And here is the backstory. So Poland, of course, is a country where music is music is music. They know everything, right? I mean, Lutosławski and Penderecki, 20th century. And so Copland, of course, got played there over and over and over again.
Huh.
But because of the spoken words of Lincoln Portrait, it could not appear on stage until after before 1989, before communism fell.
Oh, you mean from a political perspective?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
From a censorship perspective, government of the people, by the people, for the people, that was not happening in communist Poland.
Right.
So that piece got kind of brushed aside from all of Copland's output, and then by sheer momentum, it just didn't happen. And I realized that was the case, and I approached and I said, "Hey, listen, this piece that gets done here in America, and it's recited by our president, and Obama has done it, and whatever." And they said, "What? How come we don't know about this?" So I told them all about this. We worked a really fabulous translation. So we did it in in Polish. I mean, we looked around for an appropriate narrator. I offered some possibilities from America, maybe in English. I had a conversation with Condoleezza Rice. She was kind of interested, but then couldn't happen. And then Zbigniew Brzezinski was very interested, but was
Wait, does Condoleezza Rice speak Polish?
No. We're going to do it in English.
Okay.
Yeah, if it was from, if it was an A-lister from America, they were going to do it in English.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Long story short, they still didn't. I took in their country or in Poland to get a politician would have been very controversial, Polish politician, because they are like this all the time.
Yeah.
So in the end, we got the most famous Polish movie director, kind of like Poland's Spielberg.
Okay.
Just a revered movie director who's also an actor who did this, and it worked very well. It was a big hit, and it was a very emotional performance for me. I happen to also absolutely adore the piece. I mean, some people like it, some people don't like it. I love the piece. Yeah. I cry on the last page always. And so, so you can imagine if I cry anyway. Now I was in Poland doing it with my dad in the audience at the Warsaw Philharmonic. This was it was a double concert. I got to do it twice. So yeah,
we did it with Richmond Philharmonic, and we had an African American be the narrator from VCU who taught African American studies, and he had never heard of the piece.
Wow.
So you can imagine him learning it, and he comes in for the first rehearsal, and when he heard the music for the first time, you could just see. I mean, if a black guy could turn white, that's happening here, right? So he just was like, he literally said to me, he came up to the podium and whispered, I had no idea. Like he hadn't even listened to the piece yet. He just was given this script, and I was like, yeah, don't worry, I'll cue you when to start. And then we had a break and we had a discussion about it, and it worked out. But and you could tell he was like, I'm going back to my students. They are going to learn this piece. And it was, it was a really powerful kind of thing. Have you, it kind of makes me wonder now that, have you ever heard of performances of Lincoln Portrait elsewhere in the world done translated?
I'm aware that it has been translated.
That seems rare. That seems that would be rare.
Yeah. So back then I looked at that and I became aware that it had been translated, but translations can be tricky because language is tricky, and and Lincoln's language was different still. So making finding the equivalent in Polish, but we got a great translation. I actually did it then with another orchestra in Poland, so it became kind of a thing for me.
Yeah.
But that was the Polish premiere of Lincoln Portrait. Right here.
That is awesome.
Is there, Maestro? Is there by chance a recording of the Polish version available?
Nope. Other than an archival recording of that concert. I mean, they do archive everything, but nothing. But I tell you, I love playing around with ideas of premieres. So I got another one for you if you got another minute.
Please.
So this season we will again be performing because it just fits so well for what the season is about. Richard Strauss Richard Strauss Metamorphosen, which is the piece for 23 solo strings.
Yep.
Okay, hold on to your seat. I and the then National Chamber Orchestra premiered that piece in Washington.
Wait, when was this?
This was in 1980s.
Wow, I was going to say, because we did it in the Marine Band, but since I was in, I was like, wait, what's the date on that?
No. 1980s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it wasn't written that much earlier, right? It was written in 44. So this was about 40 years later.
Yeah.
It just had never been done when we pulled it out.
Relatively obscure piece among Strauss works, right? I mean, it's
maybe a little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit. And what it is it's kind of inconvenient because National Symphony. It's for so everyone knows it's a unique piece that's for 23 solo strings. Right. 10 violins, 5 viols, 5 cellos, 3 double basses. So it's not a piece Yeah,
Nobody's hiding.
It's not a piece that National Symphony would necessarily do, and especially under the music directors that they've had recently. And then it's clearly not a piece that orchestras take on tour. So it's not something that would have been brought here. So, so there we were. And since then we've done it, I think, either once or twice more, and now we're doing it again this season. But this season it fits perfectly because we're socially distanced. 23, everybody on their own music stands. 23 players.
Yeah.
There's we're calling that concert in memoriam. It's just two pieces we're doing on that concert. It's that piece plus a piece by Adolphus Hailstork, African-American composer from Virginia, living composer from Virginia, who wrote a piece in memory of a colleague of his. So two pieces that are kind of tied by the in memory theme. And of course, you don't have to reach far to look for thematic connection to in memory in today's environment. So we'll be dedicating it to any number of those who passed for various reasons. But so that concert actually comes up shortly in January. So it's coming up. Looking forward to that.
Great lineups there. So when you mentioned the Lincoln Portrait not being able to be done in a place like Poland that loved Copland's music, this is a great segue, right? Because it was all about the political tension there with the content of the Lincoln Portrait. And we think in this country, with how divided this country it certainly is nowadays, right now, a piece like Lincoln Portrait is, it wouldn't be particularly political, right? I mean, Lincoln is one of these revered presidents on both sides of the aisle, if you will. Everybody acknowledges that he is arguably in the top 3 of greatest presidents of all time, regardless of your party. So the fact that Copland used that as the subject, that's easy. That's an easy one. It's gonna sell on both sides, right? Whereas it never occurred to me that would be a piece that would be, controversial in another country. That's just absolutely fascinating to me. Can you think of some other pieces that have had an interesting political influence with composers? I mean, I think, if I had to think of a particularly a composer who was influenced by politics, I would think that Shostakovich would be would fall into that category on some level, or terrified on
terrified. Yeah. He was actually trying not to be necessarily.
Right. Didn't want to be political, but he was pulled into it, right? I mean,
yeah. But but the guy standing next to you, I mean, Eroica, goodness gracious.
Right. Absolutely, with Napoleon. That's a great
Napoleon, and then decision to cross it out, and
to the memory of a heroic man,
of a great hero, something like that.
Something. It's like
yeah. But so you bring up an interesting point, and that it has to do with relevance of what we do. So one of the things that we're now discovering, and I'm embarrassed to say we're late to this game, but we're discovering is that to be more relevant, we need to address issues. We need to address current issues. So by way of example, another fabulous piece we're doing later this season by a composer, Carlos Simon, who was a Washington composer. Pete Wilson, I Will Shame You, because you're giving me a blank stare. Carlos Simon is a composer who just had a commission performed by Philadelphia Orchestra. He's an African-American composer and other major orchestras. He's an African-American composer, lives right here in Washington, is on faculty at Georgetown. So he wrote a piece entitled A Portrait of a Queen. Incredibly clever premise. I'm sorry. Portrait of a Queen. Incredibly clever premise. The premise is that it also involves narration, like Lincoln Portrait. So there are poems. It's in 4 movements. There are poems that go to introduce each movement, and it follows a imaginary African woman, Black woman, where the first movement, she's a queen in Africa. The second movement, she's enslaved in America.
Oh, wow.
The third movement, she's in Jim Crow era in America. And the fourth movement, she emerges in modern America as a strong church woman.
Okay. But that's an interesting.
Very interesting, tracing kind of
Yeah.
a line.
I thought you were going to say, and I thought you were going to say the fourth movement was First Lady of the United States or something.
I have to talk to Carlos about that. But
the Atta movement.
But yeah, so very interesting and wonderful music.
When was it composed?
Yeah,
when was it composed?
I want to say maybe about 3 years ago. There's a recording. There is a recording, and the woman who narrates on the recording is doing our narration as well. So, but to come full circle, we're taking this time to kind of rethink what we're doing and getting into repertoire that's really relevant to today and what it means to be alive today and how music fits into that.
Wonderful.
Wow.
That's great.
That's fantastic. Do you have any questions, Will? I know I've been...
we have one from our audience. I also just want to go ahead and clarify for the Lincoln Portrait performance that Richmond Philharmonic did. It was Dr. His last name sometimes gets me. It's Chioke Ianson. Am I saying that correct? From VCU.
That's right. Ianson.
Our narrator for that evening.
Yes.
And
it was, I didn't have it in my, since I thought of it as we were talking, I thought, oh dear, I should have had that queued up, but I didn't know we were going to talk about Lincoln Portrait.
Lincoln Portrait.
Sorry. Mike,
it was our name.
You would know him because he's also the voice of NPR. One of his side, as well as being a professor at VCU, he's the guy who reads all of the advertisements for the national broadcast of NPR. So his voice is heard around the country on a daily basis.
Well, and that's how he was pitched to me. Hey, this guy's got a great voice and he teaches African studies. And okay, I was like, I'm all in. And I just assumed that he would like know the piece, but he was like, yeah.
So I should say, we did it here at National Philharmonic. And when we opened Music Center at Strathmore, the very first concert, we also did Lincoln Portrait. It happened to be on February 12th, the Lincoln birthday.
Yeah.
And our narrator there was the late Cokie Roberts.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. And
that was also a great moment.
A good one. She's great.
That's great.
I got to narrate it because for 25 years I was the announcer for the Marine Corps, and finally the Marine band director said, "Yeah, we're going to do Lincoln Portrait," and we did it at the Lincoln Memorial, and I got to do the narration.
Oh wow! All right, Pete.
That was great. So
that's great.
I'm just throwing that out there, Maestro. If you ever need.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I know.
You know what I discovered? I don't know if you knew this, but actually Copland got a few of the quotes wrong. If you go back and you read what Lincoln actually said, and I did the research. I actually looked up the speeches and
you would.
So, for example,
no, I didn't know.
Yeah, the way Copland, the most famous one, of course, is the end, the Gettysburg Address. But I did the research because I wanted to know where these quotes came from, because there's a whole, but there's a debate that one of them comes from. These weren't just from addresses or something, right?
Yeah.
I just assumed they were all from Gettysburg or something.
No.
When I was a kid,
I think it's three different.
So I did that research, and I actually created a whole script for myself where I put in parentheses what each thing came from. But the one that comes to mind, like work and toil, is actually toil and work. I mean, it's like was the most bizarre things, right? It's like, how do you get that one? It's like, okay, so that was one, and then the other one, which is a big one, was at the very end where he says, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Lincoln never said the word and.
And. I don't remember and being in there, but okay.
Copeland added the
road
word
had
and.
The and?
Copeland added and. And so when I did it, I took the and out. Now, and I was conflicted because Copeland
Yeah. I
composer,
get it. But
right?
for some reason, I
Right?
don't
This-
remember the end in there ever, and when I did it.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So in the Copeland text, he writes
Yeah,
like, there's
yeah.
foil and all that stuff. There's one, I think there's one other in there. I can't remember what it is now, but I have my script downstairs and I have like this is corrected from this and all that stuff. It's kind of fun. But anyway, I thought you'd appreciate that since you love the piece.
Yeah.
I do.
Now next time I do it, I'll be like,
Absolutely.
We have a question from one of our audience members, Yvonne Mastromano, has asked us, and I think it's appropriate for you, Maestro, because you are involved with so many streaming concerts these days. And the question is, what is the most valuable thing that is lost with virtual/streaming concerts versus live concerts?
Oh, Yvonne, thank you for the question. Well, we do our best with these streamed concerts, but at the end of the day, to be in the presence of the musicians who are performing, and also, frankly, to hear, no matter how good speakers you're listening through, to hear the real sound with all the overtones present and with the blend. I mean, there's nothing like it. I make a very poor analogy, but it's a little bit of an analogy to me as the difference between going to a football game or watching one on TV. I mean, when you're watching people perform live in that moment, in person, do incredible things, you realize more how incredible it is. We make it, when it's on TV, it looks a lot easier somehow. When you're watching it live, it's absolutely incredible. On the other hand, what we gain on TV, in the analogy of football, is we gain the replays, we gain the analysis, and we now do the same thing with our programs. We do. I won't say we do replays, but we actually do musical examples, and we take music apart, we put it back together. So we gain a little bit, but what we lose is a lot. But it's right now it's what we've got.
Right. Yeah, it makes me think of when you were talking there. It made me think of there are two conductors that come to mind in terms of recording. One is Sir George Schulte, who completely embraced the element of recording to the extent that he asked for like microphones everywhere, and then he would go into the studio and be like, okay, yeah, raise the oboe there, and he was like, and this is why the man had 35 Grammys, right? Because he created the balance in the control room after it was all recorded with all the various levels, right? And then you have on the complete polar opposite of that was Celibidache, who didn't want anything recorded, even though people were recording it, but nothing was allowed to be released until he died, right?
Right.
Because his whole thing was, it is not what it is in the concert hall. He felt that the concert hall was the end all be all, and that experience in the seat was the most important thing. So I don't think he ever did a studio recording. That anything that's been recorded of Celibidache was a live performance, and then people went on and later. But it's kind of fascinating. I mean, I see both sides of that, because I think recordings are clearly important and vital, but I also obviously think that the live music experience is so
right. Well, I mean, again, the things that we gain with the video recordings is we can get uptight close up with musicians. You can see how they're playing, whereas in a large concert hall, they might be behind somebody.
Right.
Here you can get a close up of that oboe solo, and it's interesting.
And to that point, with Schulte, that was the beginning of the era of sitting with a score, the really good recording engineers with the video, right? And they would go, okay, camera 3, oboe solos coming up in 3, 2, 1, go. And then over here, yeah. So you got it. It was like a movie. It was literally.
So that's of course what we do. We've got like 8 cameras.
Oh wow!
Including a jib that sort of floats over the orchestra. I mean, it's a production. It's a
Wow.
production. Take a look.
It's Oliver Stone on it. Did you ever
Yeah.
hear that story about, you mentioned football? This is appropriate. And Any Given Sunday. Do you remember this movie?
I do.
Okay. So Oliver Stone did a movie called Any Given Sunday. It was with Al Pacino.
No, I don't remember. Yeah.
Al Pacino is the coach, and
Okay.
Jamie Foxx is the quarterback. You have to see this movie. It's
Okay.
phenomenal. Okay.
I like football movies.
Okay, it's important because what Oliver Stone did in this movie, he created a whole fictitious league, like made up all the teams, right?
Okay.
What is it, Will? The Sharks? I think they play on the
I
Sharks.
don't remember it to that extent.
I think it's the Miami Sharks or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What Oliver Stone did is he got like multi cameras on these wires going, and then he put cameras inside the helmets, and he had, I mean, you're in the freaking game. It's insane,
Yeah.
right? It was such a successful movie to the NFL that they said, oh, we need to now film this way. And that's why if you notice on football fields, they have these lines, and you'll see, and they'll have the cameras swinging back and forth. Totally Oliver Stone. He is the one to thank for all of the inside camera work that we have now in the NFL, and to a certain extent in even college football, because he wanted to bring the whole experience in so, and obviously he had the means to do it, right? I mean, he's a cameraman. I mean, he's, you know.
So just for your audience, I'm gonna let you in on a secret of something we did. And this concert, unfortunately, our concerts are available only for a week before they go dark. So you can only see them for a week after their launch. To have access to the whole library, you have to be like a $300 donor. So if you're a $300 donor, you get access to the library. But
That's good to know. That's good to know.
But that's otherwise they're free. So this last concert that we did, I already mentioned, I did this little Beethoven demonstration where I talked a little bit, and then I would, we'd play for 3 measures, and I'd stop and I'd explain, and sometimes I would talk over the music. So long story short, we all wear masks. Long story short, the stage director said, no, when you're doing this demonstration, you have to be unmasked. It can't be with a mask because it looks so bad and we can't understand what you're saying. Orchestra said, no, we don't accept anybody being without a mask. I mean, wind players, we have a special arrangement and whatnot, but no, you can't be. So through the miracle of unbelievable editing, hours and hours and hours and hours of editing, if you go back and look at that little demonstration, it's a 4.5 minute segment. When I talk, I'm not wearing a mask, but when I'm not wearing a mask, there's not a single person on stage in front of me. I give an upbeat, I give a downbeat, the orchestra plays, they shoot to the orchestra, which plays into it. I talk over the orchestra. I am wearing a mask. That's from the take of when we taped the music with me wearing a mask. Whoa. Unbelievable job of editing. It's the number of hours they had to spend on that 4.5 minutes is just over the top.
Wow.
You're like old school. I'm thinking of the videos, Art of Conducting, where they, from the 40s and 50s, when they were like, had one camera and they would do it from the back, and then they'd get the guy from the front and he's like this. But there's no, You guys remember those videos with like Strauss conducting, and he's like looking at his watch, and he's like,
yeah.
He looks, he's conducting Heldenleben, and he just looks as
it's completely,
well, that was Strauss.
Completely uninterested in what he just played. Oh my God.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when you are watching a video and the moment that you're looking for from a conductor's gesture, or even like in something like Bolero, when the solo is being passed around, if the camera misses the obvious moment to be on something important, it just drives me crazy.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that happens.
I have a whole bunch of, okay, I'm going to date myself now. I have a bunch of laser discs in my.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what that is. And this was CDs before CDs, right? Or the big movies on CD, but big CDs. They look like LPs, but they're shiny and silver.
Yeah.
So I have a whole bunch of these classical ones, and there are a few that I have of I've got the two Art of Conducting ones, which are fascinating. I think the one that shocked me the most was Munch, which you would appreciate, Peter, because of Boston.
Boston, sure.
Boston, right? He did Symphony Fantastique, and he does the ending so insanely fast. Of course, like you, no score whatsoever, so he knew everything, you know. And it just amazes me when somebody knows the score that well and that they interpret it this way. There's no way that Berlioz, when it was like, you know, ba 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 ba, you know, and then he holds the last note. It's like it's insanely fast, but then the very last note of the piece is like 10 seconds, like easily 10 seconds long.
Wow.
And then he just drops his arm. You're like, oh my god, it's insane. But I had this one of Schulte conducting Les Preludes, and a clarinetist plays a wrong note. I mean, not out of tune, dead wrong. I mean, completely wrong note. And they edit back to Schulte, and he gives this look.
No, I mean, when you talk bloopers, there's so many weird performances now you can see on YouTube. I mean, there's like a Brahms fourth where Giulini basically loses the orchestra and has the winds playing half a measure off of the strings.
Oh,
unbelievable! Because he at one point just kind of gives this very vague slowdown, and then some people misinterpret, and then they go with it, and then everybody. So for like 15 measures, they're off by half a measure, and it kind of sort of fits in certain places, but then it doesn't.
wow!
Yeah, it's not, you can see some nutty stuff on YouTube.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the political realm. No. I was told with Shostakovich 5, which I have right here.
Very nice, Peter. It's very nice.
By the way, this is my third spicy conductor. It is so good. I have to tell you how good this is. It's a great thing, by the way. Very spicy. The spicy continues to go.
No, I worry that my wife is going to pick up an email, and that will just be the end of me.
So I was talking to my professor from Northwestern, Victor Yampolsky, who I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's actually popular in the Richmond area. He conducts the Richmond Symphony from time to time. They love him as a guest conductor. But I was talking to him about that autobiography of Shostakovich. You know, the famous one. I can't remember who the writer was that took down all of the recordings. I have this downstairs. It's called The Testament. Do you know this book?
Yeah.
And so I told him that you know, with the end of Shostakovich 5, that he talks about how, you know, Shostakovich meant for this to be like super slow at the end. Because it's supposed to be, you know,
it's sarcastic. It's parody.
They wanted this big piece to be, you know, all political and all about the country and everything. And he was so angry that he had to appease them because of the Fourth Symphony. That as I understand it, it was supposed to be a bat hitting you over the head with this.
Absolutely.
I told Yampolsky this, and he said, "It's rubbish. This is not what Shostakovich meant at all. This writer is nuts. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You know, he completely dismissed."
Well, so
he said it was meant to be played, you know, da 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 da. I mean, it's like, it is what it is. Now, you know, it's funny because in the this is supposedly the critical edition, and at the beginning of that section, hold on, here it is. It says eighth note equals 184.
Right.
And Yampolsky says it should be quarter note.
He's wrong.
188. And he insists on this. Now, interestingly, Bernstein does it the fast way.
So I can tell you, I can tell you the lowdown on that piece. Funny you should ask. I can tell you. Well,
Just so you know, we got about
We have 4 minutes.
okay, but so
Hit me.
I will preface it with Victor Yampolsky was concertmaster for my Tanglewood audition.
No.
Now I've got 3 minutes, and Miron, his brother, used to play for me in the orchestra for a while.
Of
But
course,
anyway,
tell him.
so
Yeah.
I actually did this for an audience once, and I demonstrated it in the 2 different tempos.
Oh, wow.
I demonstrated before we started playing. I demonstrated it in the fast tempo, but here's how we know. And unfortunately, I don't have the materials in front of me to give you the exact whatever. But at some point, and I can't remember who the conductor was conducting it. Shostakovich was still alive, and Shostakovich was, I think, in Switzerland at that point. And the guy wrote him, Maestro, this ending, how is it supposed to go? Is it supposed to go? Is it? Do you really mean 8th note equal 184? And he sent it out, and this was, and one of them was in the Soviet Union, the other one wasn't, something like that. He sent him a letter, nothing came, nothing came, and then a postcard came with a single word, correct. Yeah, so it's absolutely certain. There's no question about it. Now, there's another part of the story, which is that when Bernstein, oddly enough, everything comes full circle, went to Soviet Union and conducted Shostakovich Fifth in Shostakovich's presence, he conducted this movement, and he conducted it fast. Afterward, Shostakovich came up to him and said, "Oh, this is wonderful. I love it." Right, but at that time they were in the Soviet Union together. But there's very little dispute in my mind that it was to be this horrendously slow. And when you do it that way, it just becomes a completely, the thing is long anyway, right? D major, D major, D major, D major, D major, D major, and it becomes a completely, there's no way that he could have meant it sincerely as a heroic ending. It makes no sense.
Wow. So you always do it with 8th note.
I always do it very, very slow. Yeah, da 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 dum, boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh man.
It's crazy slow. Da da da.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Peter Gajewski.
but that's the point. It's
Yeah. Peter Gajewski, we cannot thank you enough. I just want to say that you were a fantastic mentor to me. You always have been, and a dear friend. I thank you so much. You're so inspiring. And thank you for joining us on Cocktails with Conductors. Please tune in, everyone, 9 p.m. tonight on WETA, right?
Right. And
90.9 to hear the National Philharmonic play Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony, which was one of Mravinsky's other favorite pieces to Shostakovich 5 to tie it all in. So thank you so much. We'll see everyone in 2 weeks for our 5th episode of Cocktails with Conductors with myself and Will Patty.
Hey.
Good to see you, Will.
And can I say a thank you?
Yes.
Maestro Wilson, you're an inspiration. Thank you. Congratulations what you do with the Richmond Philharmonic. Wonderful stuff.
Thank you so much.
Very humbling to hear you say what you just said. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Hey, night.